Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online build video with me, Sherman. That's right, 2 in 1 day, who would have thought? But this one is special. Somebody requested it. They wanted an updated version of this build, and it is one of my preferred play styles, especially now, because I do play this on live the way it is, I'm presenting it, and it's one that really is just, it's unique, it's different, and it adds a lot of flavor to it, I guess, to being a healer. So let's jump right into it. Now, this build is called the Moon Dancer. This is an old classic build I released a while back. I've done some updates to it on live, but I've never re-released it because a lot of people complained about it. So, yeah. But I decided I wanted to re-release it. It's something that I enjoy playing. It's something I've played for a long time now. And yes, this is a pure dungeon healer build. This is not made for trials in any way, shape, or form. It is for dungeons. Now, it is also great in solo play when you're running around doing quests and stuff. It's really powerful for that. It's also really powerful for doing world bosses, like if you're with a group and you're doing world boss trains, or you're doing the 2 new arenas, or doing the new arena, the Black Rose Prison. It's very powerful in Black Rose Prison because it offers a lot of similar stuff that what you're used to on a healer, but also something a little different and unique. So, alright, let's go ahead and take a look at it. We are a Khajiit with this. Khajiit is, yes, BIS for this because it is based on Khajiits. So this is a kind of like a roleplay build more than anything, but it works and it does really good, and it's still by far one of my favorite builds to play as a healer. Don't know why, just is. As you can see, we do have a 32k magicka with an 1887 magic recovery, but if we use our pots and we go back in, we have a 2173 magic recovery. Really perfect for this build, actually. We do have a 19,000 max health, which is good also. We have 14k stamina, which is also good because we do use our sword and board on the build. And we have a 2378 spell damage unbuffed. So that's not completely buffed. If we do this and then we do our pots, now we're fully buffed. We have 2575 spell damage with a 46% spell critical, so our heals hit for really good and our damage abilities hit for really good, which is great. We do have a 28% weapon critical with a small weapon damage, but because we do use sword and board, we do get some damage out of it, which is kind of nice. Our resistances are coming in at 17,000 and 13,000 on the front bar. On the back bar, it drops to 14,000, 10,000, which is fine. We can buff up on the back bar our resistances, if I can get it to work right. So we actually go to 2521, and then we go to 2217. So we have really good survivability on this build. Moving on, we are using the Antronach Mundus Stone to give us that extra recovery that we need. We do have Major Prophecy at all times because we have Inner Light on both bars, and we are using Witch Mother's Potent Brew for the max health, max magicka, and magic recovery. Really the best food you can have for this build, besides the gold version. I don't remember the name of it, but if you can get the gold version, I actually have a stack of 25 I've been using on live. I think I'm down to 21 or something now. But yeah, I've been using them on live. They're great. So, but yeah, really good setup, like I said. So let's go ahead and move on to the gear. Now, like I said, Witch Mother's Potent Brew, you do want to use Spell Power Pots with this build because you don't have Major Sorcery or the crit, or not the crit, the Major Sorcery or Magic Recovery. You want that from this, and it gives you a lot of magicka back. It's like 7,000 on live, so really powerful. Moving on to the sets, we are running the Sentinels of Rakuzma. I can't even pronounce this right, ever. But this monster set's really good. It gives us 2% healing done, and when you heal a friendly target, you have a 10% chance to summon a Dwemer Spider that heals them for 1,176 health and restores 524 stamina to you and your allies within 5 meters. Every 1 second for 8 seconds. This build is really good at keeping your group sustained. Especially stamina players, because of that right there. Now, moving on to our other set we're running, We are running Julianus. Now, we are running a 5-1-1. 5 light, 1 heavy, 1 medium. Our heavy is our chest, our medium is our legs, everything else is light. This actually gives you the most resistances for a light armor build. But the reason I'm running Julianus is because if you look, it gives us 2 things of spell crit, 1 thing of max magicka, and then some spell damage, which really plays into the build really well, because we really need spell damage for this build to work properly. Because in a dungeon, it's not like a trial where you have 12 characters, you have 8 DPS or 10 DPS, or sorry, 8 DPS, 2 tanks, 2 healers. You have 1 healer, 1 tank, and 2 DPS. So building for more damage for dungeons is actually a lot better on a healer, because you're not spamming heals like you normally do. You actually have time to throw out damage abilities and do damage. So that's kind of why this build is made the way it is. The front bar is your damage bar, your back bar is your healing bar. Now, you don't have like major breach from the destruction staff. If you want to run a lightning staff with this build, it still works and it's still really powerful, but it's not as good as it's good as this, but it's not as enjoyable, in my opinion, as the way this is set up. Moving on, the other set we are running now is Powerful Assault. Now, I know I just released a build running Powerful Assault for PvP. I ran a healer build that was running Powerful Assault, or a support build. But this gear set is amazing for this setup, because when you are on the front bar, you do have Vigor. So you're going to pop Vigor. That's going to boost everyone's weapon and spell damage by 16 or 164. Not as good as Spell Power Cure or Olorum's, but it's easier to get. This set is super easy to get. It doesn't require you running White Gold Tower or Imperial City Prison or White Gold Tower, whichever one it is. You don't have to run that to get it. You can actually buy this from the guild stores. Get a set of it, get a sword and shield and a resto staff. You're good. So jewelry, sword and board, resto staff. It's that simple. Now, it does cost a little bit. I think I paid 30-something thousand in total for my whole setup on live. Like, the jewelry was the most expensive. The sword and board was, like, super dirt cheap. The staff was, like, almost free. It was, like, 200 gold. But I got a really good deal on it. And on live, my jewelry's not golded out. It's actually purple. So, but as you can see, it gives you health, stamina, weapon damage, and then when you cast an assault ability, you increase your weapon and spell damage by 4 damage of up to 4 friendly targets within 10 meters by 164 for 15 seconds. This is why I said it works great in dungeons. Now, I know it's not as good as Spell Power Cure to a lot of people, but this particular type of setup works great. Moving on, we are running Sword and Board on the front bar infused with a absorb magic damage. So this way you get magicka back and you do magic damage. It's okay if you want to run shock here too. It doesn't really matter which enchant you run on this one, to be honest. I just like doing the magic damage with the magic restore. I think it works out. And then on the back bar, we are running a infused staff with a weakening enchant. This is really, really important that you have this one, because you're going to be doing a lot of light and heavy attacks with this. So getting that on there is really important to get that weakening on your enemies and keep it up as much as you can. Now, I'm going over the traits, the enchants, and how they're set up. On the big pieces, the helm, the chest, and legs, we are running infused with Tri-Stat Glyphs and also a Tri-Stat Glyph on the shield. You can run a Max Magicka on the shield if you want, but honestly, I find the Tri-Stat to be the best on the shield, so it works out really well. If you're going to run the smaller pieces, you're going to run them Divines with Max Magicka. This gives you a greater Magicka pool in the long run. You also get a lot more health with this build because you are running that Powerful Assault, and you do get a little bit more stamina, which gives you better blocking and dodge rolling. So, now on to the jewelry. We are running 2 Arcane which you do have to transmute these in Arcane, in Clockwork City, or at your guild hall, if your guild hall has one, or you have one in your house, a transmutation station. You want to transmute these to Arcane to give you the extra max magicka, and you want 2 spell damage. The third one you want infused with magic recovery. This way you can get that magic recovery up there, because we have nothing that gives us magic recovery, no sets. So that infused really plays that part. Another reason why on the front bar I'm running in a sword is, if you look, it does 1335 damage, so does this. But this is enchanted with infused spell damage, or magic damage, and the max magicka. This gives us the weakening, which reduces the enemy's spell and weapon damage. And that's the gear. Now moving on to the skills. Make sure you get all of your class passives. It's really important to get all your class passives with this. Moving on to the sword and board passives, make sure you get all those. Restoration staff, get all the passives. Now, if you do a destruction staff, you can use weakness elements. But it's better, if you're going to do that, to go with Spell Power Cure and Julianus and drop the Powerful Assault. The reason why I say that is because with the Spell Power Cure and the Julianus, you still have the same amount of spell crit, but you get a little bit more spell damage, and you get more max magicka. You actually end up with 34k max magicka with that setup. Well, 33k, almost 34k, because we're dropping the shield. Alright, but make sure you get all the passives on it. Onto the armor. Light armor, you want all the passives. Medium armor, yes, you do want the top 2 and the bottom 1, because you are using a sword and board. This extra little bit of crit really helps. This extra stam recovery and the stam reduction you don't need to worry about, but it does help with vigor a little bit. And then this one really helps for your dodge roll. Moving on to heavy armor, you want the top 3 passives, mainly for Juggernaut, the 2% max health, and then the Resolve that gives you both spell and physical resistance by 362. Constitution, it's a toss up there. World, Soul Magic, you want these 2 there. And then moving on to guild skills. Fighters Guild, you don't really need much from here. I would suggest get Banish the Wicked, so you can get ultimate from killing undead, Daedra, and werewolves, because you can kill them. Mages Guild, fill in all of them. You are using Inner Light, but you can swap out one of your skills for Degeneration if you want. But there's no reason to, because you are using Spell Power Pots. The other reason why I have this is for Equilibrium. Equilibrium's an amazing skill if you use the right one. You want to use the Spell Symmetry for this. And the problem is that it does affect you, but it's a good way to keep your magicka up. If you're burning through a lot of magicka or something, you can use the Spell Symmetry. It also gives you a resistance, or it gives you that, and then you still have your resistance buff. So, and after the exchange is complete, the cost of your next magic ability is reduced by 25%. So it's kind of a nice trade-off if you want to use that. It's up to you. But yeah, I just fill them all in because I do use Degeneration sometimes, and I use that as well. Undaunted, you just need the 2 Undaunted passives. You can use the Blood Altar if you want, or you can use Orbs, even though you have Spear Shards. Either one is up to you. And then moving on to Alliance, all you need is the Resolving Vigor. You can use Aggressive Warhorn as well on your back bar. And then on your front bar, you want the Support Reviving Barrier, which reminds me, you want to get this Magical Aid. We do have Barrier here. This is going to be the main ultimate you use a majority of the time. The reason why is because that damage shield and the heal it gives you is just crazy. And yes, this builds ultimate pretty quick. Khajiit, the reason I chose Khajiit is, like I said, this is kind of a roleplay thing. The Moon Dancer, related to Khajiit stuff. But they do get health and stam recovery. They do get stealthy, but this is the big one. They get weapon critical. So for your sword and board, you do get extra crit. Alchemy and medicinal use, always important. And provisioning, Gourmand and Connoisseur. Alright, now, going over the skills, guys. Starting with the first skill on our bar, we have Vampire's Bane. This is a really powerful damage ability and CC, but mainly the main main reason why we were using it is for the damage. This is just a really powerful damage ability, and it can also proc the Illuminate, which gives us minor sorcery for 20 seconds. We have a potion that gives us major. This gives us minor. We also get Prison, which generates 3 ultimate every 6 seconds when we cast this. So you do want to cast this quite often so you can get that ultimate gen. It's really important, really good. And you also get the Restoring Spirit passive here, just by filling it out. But this is a really important passive. It reduces the cost of Magicka, Stamina, and Ultimates by 4%. So that's why I said it's really important to take those medium armor passives, because this is going to reduce your stam cost by 2%. So it's all your stam abilities, which is just this one, is reduced by 6%. So, and then moving on, sorry, we have Blazing Spear. I know it's not Luminous Shards, but Blazing Spear is actually, in my opinion, better because it does do magic damage up front, and it does more magic damage over time. It can also proc the Aedric Spear ability, Burning Light, and as you can see, this thing will add an additional 4,028 damage, magic damage, and that can occur every 0.5 seconds. So every time this thing ticks damage, it can proc this. So really good way to boost that damage of you and your group. And the more damage you have going out, the better it is. So next up we have Ritual of Retribution. Again, this does a really good heal, but it also does does magic damage every 2 seconds for 12 seconds. And it can be used as a cleanse by your group. It also cleanses you of 2 negative effects. This is really good in some of the newer dungeons. Yeah. Next up, Resolving Vigor. This is there for group heal, and it seems small, I know. I mean, when you look at it, 1,200 and something, but when you have this down now, and then you do it, your Resolving Vigor can actually go, crit heal for 1,000 something, and then if you use your Power Pot, you do this, and then you do your Vigor. For some reason, it's not working, but oh well. But yeah, you can get a lot of healing out of Vigor, and you also get that Powerful Assault buff. So Powerful Assault lasts for 15 seconds, so that's a really good timeline on it. But yeah, that's why it's there. Next up, we have Inner Light. We have this here for the Major Prophecy, but also the Max Magicka. We get 7% Max Magicka because it's here, because of one of the Mages Guild passives and stuff. And then next up we have Reviving Barrier. We have this because it's an amazing damage shield. 34,424 damage absorbed. But because we use Sword and Board, that makes our shield strength even stronger. So that's why we keep this on our bar. Or we want to keep this because our resistances are applied to it. Now moving on to the back bar, we have Healing Springs. This is going to be our main spam heal. It also restores 338 Magicka for each friendly target you hit with the initial heal, so you're not going to have resource issues with this build. Next, we have Combat Prayer. This is going to be your main burst heal. We don't use Breath of Life, and there's a reason why I don't use Breath of Life. It doesn't hit that many targets, and this one I can line it up and hit all my allies with it. So, really good. Next on our bar, we have Ward Ally. This gives us a shield, and then it gives our allies a shield for the equal amount. But the shield strength is increased by up to 300% depending on the severity of the target. So this gives me a shield and an ally a shield. Now there is the new staff in Black Rose Prison, which is really, really good with this build. Because when you swap to the back bar, you're not worried about losing the Powerful Assault buff and, for it to proc that buff, or the weapon damage. This way you can use that Resto Staff from there, and it gives you a lot of healing. Next up, we do have Channeled Focus. This is going to give us Major Ward, Major Resolve, but it also gives us Magicka Return, and when we use this, we want to stay in it. You don't want to move out of it, because if you move out of it, you actually lose resistances. So you want to stay in it all the time as much as you can. Usually I do this after I drop it, so that way I get mitigation with blocking. Inner Light again for the Max Magicka, Major Prophecy. And the last ability we have, I do not use Warhorn, and there's a reason. I like this Light's Champion. What this will do is this releases rejuvenating energy of your staff to swirl around you, healing you and a nearby ally for 8,244 health every 1 second for 5 seconds. Any friendly target you heal gains major force and major protection for 5 seconds, increasing their critical damage by 15% and reducing their damage taken by 30%. This is a 120 ultimate. This thing you can fire off like Dawnbreaker. So really, this is going to be the one you're going to be using most of the time. This is for those oh crap moments. And as you can see, this one costs 192. So, but that is it for the skills. We're going to go ahead and jump into the CP. Starting with the red tree, we have 66 in Ironclad, reducing damage taken from direct damage attacks by 22%. Moving on over here, we have 2 in the light armor focus because we have 2 points left over. We have no real place to put it, and this is best. This is going to give you 209 extra physical resistance. Not that much, but it does help. It puts you over that 10k mark. And then we have 31 into thick skin, reducing your damage taken from damage over time effects by 13%. We do have a cleanse, so it's not something we really worry about too much, but it's nice to have this. We have 56 in a hardy, reducing physical poison disease damage by 12%. Whenever we throw our spear shards, we do get 8% damage reduction for 3 seconds. So we actually have a 20% on this right here. On top of that, we do have Elemental Defender at the 56 points, also reducing Flame Frost, Shock, and Magic damage by 12%. Also boosted to 20% because of the Spear Shards. But remember, that's only 3 seconds uptime, so you gotta remember to really use it sparingly. Moving on, we have 40 into Bastion. This increases the effectiveness of our damage shields by 16%. We have 19 into Quick Recovery, increasing our healing received by 5%. This is also very important. When you're playing dungeons and you're in a 4-man group, anything you can do to boost your healing done, healing received, is going to be beneficial for you and your group. Now, I have a 20% healing done because I get minor mending when I put up my rune, my channeled focus. Oops, when I use this, or I use this, I get 10% more healing done through minor mending in the restoring light here. Or here, sorry, this one, Sacred Ground, I get minor mending, which increases my healing done by 8%. Because I'm wearing the monster set, I get another 2%, and then this. So I have 20% healing done with 5% healing received. So I technically have 25% healing on myself. So heals hit me for a lot. And they hit my allies for a lot. Moving on to the green tree, we have 56 in a Warlord to reduce our break free cost by 20%. We do have 23 in a bashing focus because we do bash on this build. So 14% on the bash there. Reduced cost. And then moving on to the middle tree, we do have 43 in a Mooncalf, 43 in Arcanus, both of these giving us 10% stam recovery and 10% mag recovery. If you look out here, I do have 637 stam recovery, so I don't really need it, but if I wanted more stam recovery, I could get more out of my character by using something like Repentance, or I could use Radiant Aura. Radiant Aura is another skill that I like to use sometimes instead of, like, well, not instead of Vigor, but instead of, like, Vampire's Bane, I will use this if I'm in with a Magicka group, because if you watch, this just applied Magicka Steel on him, so anytime I do damage, I get Magicka back. So every second I do damage on him, I can get Magicka back. So, because it puts minor Magicka Steel on the enemy. And it also gives me 10% more stam recovery and magic recovery. So, just a little bit more on both. And as you see here, now I'm at 2,173. That's without my pot. If I use my pot, I go up to 2,400. And I still have that 688 stam recovery. So, either way, like, if it depends on my group. If they need me to have this, if there's a Magicka DPS in the group, I will use this. the tank's going to be putting Major Breach and Major Fracture anyways, so. But I just prefer Dawn's Wraith for the extra spell damage, and I like to give out the minor sorcery to my group. Alright, so that's why I have that. You can take the 43 out of here and do other stuff with it. It's up to you. 43 into tenacity, increasing our magicka and stamina return of our fully charged heavy attacks. We are using Sword and Board and a Resto Staff, so we actually get a lot of stam and magicka return, which is really good. And then moving over here, we have 28 into tumbling, reducing our dodge roll cost by 12%. It's actually 16% for the one piece of medium armor. And then we have 34 into Shadow Ward, which also gives us reduced block cost by 14%. That plays into the fact that we do use Sword and Board. So we actually have a 40% reduced cost in blocking on the stamina side when we're using Sword and Board. When we're using a staff, it's just 14%. Moving on to the blue tree, we have 43 into Blessed. This increases healing done by 10%. Remember, I have 20% because I get an extra 8% from minor mending, 2% from my monster set, so 20% altogether. I have 56 into Elfborn, increasing my critical healing and critical damage done by 20%. 43 into Elemental Expert. This increases Flame Frost, Shock, and magic damage done by 10%. Nothing into Spell Erosion, because I'm not worried about that. I am in light armor, so. I have 16 into Physical Weapon Expert. This increases my light and heavy attacks with my sword by 10%. I also have 40 into Master at Arms, increasing my direct damage done by 16%. But I also have 16 into Staff Expert to boost my light and heavy attack damage with the Resto Staff by 10%. So technically I have a total of 26% increase of my light and heavy attacks. Well, my light attacks on the Resto Staff, my heavy attacks don't get boosted by this. They get boosted by Thaumaturge, which I have 43 points into. Shouldn't have 43, I should have 40. I think if I take 3 more points, yes, there we go. And then we have 16 into, so 40 into Thaumaturge, 16 into Precise Strikes. This will give you a 7% increase in critical healing from your Vigor. So, it's not much, but it's something. So, when we have all of our buffs down, and we do that Vigor, 2011 is not bad. So, and that is all the CP, everything for the build. Skills, gear, trades, Mundus, all that. But since I'm here in Reaper's March, I figured I'd just show you guys the build itself in action so you guys can see like how well it can work. So we're gonna go up here. We're just gonna get into a fight here. And as you can see, we do a decent amount of damage with all of our stuff because we have the spears. Oops. We have the Ritual Retribution, and then we have the Vampire's Bane, which Vampire's Bane can hit up to 2 targets. But as you can see, these things just melt. And in dungeons, things go by a lot quicker. With this, for some reason, I can get through dungeons really fast with this build and kill things really quickly. Now, a lot of people might say that a Resto or a Destruction Staff will be better, but you know, it's a preference of play, and I've played this build, like I said, for 3 years this way, and nobody's ever complained. Everyone seems to like, you know, well, not like I said, not complain. They just let me do my thing, and I get the job done. So. But yeah, that's the Moondancer, guys. That's the updated Murkmire version of Moondancer, the Khajiit healer for Elder Scrolls. So if you like it, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more builds by me or other things by me, you can hit that subscribe button. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Oh, a little lightheaded, sorry. But I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye!